Hey there, adventurers, and welcome back to another episode of the Awkward Dungeon Master. We're doing an early upload this week because my video would normally come out on Christmas Day this year, which just sounds ridiculous. And it's also an awesome opportunity for us to talk about some last-minute gift ideas. So, for all the lovely gamers in your life, Dice Tray. You can buy pre-made wooden trays at pretty much any arts and crafts store. I really like this one that I picked up because it's got rounded corners on it and it has a nice tall side on it and it's just a good size. It's a large tray. You can find smaller ones. If you want a smaller one, that's an option for you. Other materials that I have out for today, I have some acrylic paints. Because I actually wanted to try doing my own acrylic stain for this, but you can use wood stains too. My husband's done that before and they look really nice. They're super simple. You can use a rag just as well as you can use a brush for these, so I have one of my good acrylic brushes that I'm going to use today. I also have a plate for mixing paint because I actually want a darker shade of green than what I had, so I'm just going to custom mix it really quick. I have a container for me to water down that acrylic paint with to create a fake stain to use on this piece, and then a cup of water. And for the bottom, because you can use pretty much anything that you want. Most craft stores are going to have felt. They have straight felt, they have patterned felt, textured. They're going to have fake leather and fabrics and all kinds of things like that. In the past, I've always used felt because it's cheap, it's easy, and you throw it down and you're done. For this piece, I actually wanted to make it a little bit nicer, and what I found at the craft store was a bag of remnant leather, and this piece was a good size to go down into this tray. It's almost perfect. The rolling surface on the inside of this is going to be an actual leather rolling surface, because I wanted it to be a little bit nicer. This all cost me about $12, so it's inexpensive, but it's a really nice handmade gift for a gamer in your life that you want to do something nice for. So let's get started. So first things first, we need to mix the color I want to use today. This is probably way more acrylic paint than I need for what I'm doing, but I'll be able to drag stuff in. I pulled a nice medium green. I actually want like a foresty green for this project. Oh man, I'm almost out of brown, which is what I'm using to darken it up. Black was a little bit harsher than what I wanted to work with for this project, so brown was a perfect compromise for me today. You will also notice, because I've already made a mess here, I'm just going to show that to the world. I did put down some wrapping paper, and this is a good time to remind you guys too, wrapping paper goes on sale after Christmas, and you can find the paper that has the 1-inch grid on it. So if you're looking for a nice disposable map material, the wrapping paper with a 1-inch grid on the back is cheap and fantastic. So, big old blob of green here, apparently too. So I'm doing like a 1-to-2 ratio right now of that green to brown. That's a nice deep green. I'm just going to pull all of it in, because why not? I don't know if I need quite all of the brown. That's the thing too. It's always easier to add a little bit more of that darker material in than it is to take it out again. So be careful when you are custom mixing colors. So that's a nice deep green now. I don't know how well you can really see that, but it's probably pretty dark. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm just going to set the tray aside for a minute here. I'm going to take a bunch of this paint and I'm going to plop it into the bottom of this container. I picked a clear Tupperware container because I wanted you guys to be able to see the consistency of what I'm doing. And it's going to feel like too much water, but it's fine. So you're looking for a nice watered down consistency. It's going to be opaque, but you're going to want to keep almost a translucent quality to it when it's at the right consistency for what we're doing. Assuming this works. Because like I said, this is a freaking experiment. Definitely want it more watered down than it is right now. If you're using a brush to mix this, keep in mind too, paint likes to get down into the bristles, so you're going to have to work to get that back out of it. And this is still too thick. I can't even stress. I don't want this to be a paint. I want it to be a stain. And you can kind of get an idea for that if you wipe it on the side. It's almost a mossy green right now, but it has a nice translucent quality to it whenever you wipe it on the side of the container. I forgot about paper towels. Let's fix that. Whoa, paper towels for days. Okay. This is going to make a god-awful mess. be prepared. That's another reason I put this down. This is going to be messy. So, to test out my theory, I'm going to do it on the bottom. Hell yes. Okay. And I bought a wooden box for this. Most craft stores will also carry the paper ones if you want something a little bit cheaper. This one ran me about $6. And if you're paying attention, it's hard for you guys to see on the camera, but I am running my brush strokes with the grain as much as I can. And another nice thing about doing the thinned down, like fake stain paint, carefully don't let it pool on the sides, because it just tried to do that on me. But it should dry really quickly. I'm really happy with that. So we're going to go ahead and do the rest of it too. A lot of us do mini painting and stuff, so we have acrylic paints around. And then this gives you the ability to play with different colors and kind of make something unique for your friends. I toyed around with doing some extra embellishments on this one for you guys, just for fun. But the whole point of this video is that it is a quick and easy last minute gift. So try to make sure you get any pulled up parts on the bottom here. There is a technique called feathering, if you're getting some pulled bits, where you're just using the tip, just the tip of the brush to kind of pull the paint away. I'm just gonna do a quick check on the sides here. Yeah, see, we got some of that pooling that I talked about. If it started to set in, a trick you can use is you can pull some of this water and use that to break it up if it's still fresh. Because the big thing we want is we want everything to look consistent across this piece. So, it's just wood. It'll dry. I'm making a god-awful mess, but it's fine. Just pull that away. Because you don't want big globs of heavier paint in areas that you haven't worked yet, because they will show through with this being translucent in nature. So we can move on to the sides. One of the things you can do to avoid some of that pooling, I'm going really fast for this video, but you can do a lighter coat and then come back and go over it again. So just kind of work around the sides. Always, always, always go back and kind of keep an eye on the areas you've done already, just to keep an eye out for that pooling, any kind of inconsistencies in the saturation of your stain. And if you didn't catch something and it looks really bad, you can always come over it again and just do it darker, and that will help to hide some of your mistakes. See, I just went on the bottom, just fix it. Really, really keep an eye on what's going on across the board here. So already that looks really cool. There's some thinner spots there. And the nice thing is, with this being a nicely grained wood, and it's cheaper too, so this is adding to a lot of it, the wood is going to take up this paint, fake stain, whatever you want to call it, differently in the different parts of the grain. So it's going to have a lot of character. And you know what? I do want it a little bit darker than it is, so I'm going to go over this again. Why not? Just while we're here. I'm throwing paint all over the place. It's too much paint on the brush, so come back and clean up the excess that's not soaking in. We have a nice green tray. That's pretty pretty. It's party. Do the same on the sides here. Just let it soak up a little bit more of that color. Hopefully by the time we get done with the sides, the bottom will be dry enough that I can just set it down and start working on the insides. I'm a messy painter. Also a slightly crazy person, but it's fine. Don't forget what we said earlier about making sure that you're not making a huge mess in other places, and that you're getting saturation across every side. No weird pooling or anything. So especially on these cut edges, I'm getting spots where it's not soaking all the way into the grain and the cuts. So, okay. Now we gotta do the little top ledge here. So I'm just gonna hit that lightly. That one was a little bit easier to get fully saturated because we had already done a lot of the other sides. Now we're gonna do the inside. So, definitely something I want to talk about with this is I'm not gonna do the bottom on the inside, because the more stuff I put on this, we're trying to go fast. So I'm probably going to go ahead and put the bottom on as soon as it's dry enough that it's not going to bleed over onto the fabric that I have. So we're just going to do the sides, and then the porousness of the wood with the suede side of the leather will help those two things adhere just a little bit better. You're going to have some bleed over into the bottom, that's fine. It's going to be covered, so we're not worried about it. I'm just not going out of my way to worry about the bottom part of this. I would still make sure stuff doesn't pool weird at the bottom, because that can bleed up into the sides. Less of an issue on the inside. This is another thing to note too when you're working on this, because I'm seeing it right now. There's going to be some spots in the corners that don't want to take stain or paint very well. That's from the glue, so don't worry about it. It's a cheap glue. It doesn't want to hold stain. Not a big deal. I am touching this with my fingers when it's still wet. Make sure you didn't leave like a fingerprint or anything on it. I haven't had too much trouble with how watered down this has been. I obviously do have some on my hands, but it hasn't had a major effect on the appearance of the product. So, and you can take a step back every so often and kind of look at the effect of the overall project. And I feel like the grains on the inside are not wanting to take stain as well as the outside did anyway. That's the charm of it, right? Runaway stain. I keep coming back over it and looking at spots where I've already been. Like that side didn't have as much on it. I must have missed it when I came back. But once you are happy with the saturation, you can kind of take a step back, let it dry a little bit, and then we can do the bottom. Almost there. I'm getting some pooling. Watch it for a second because everything kind of settles. Always drop your brush in water once you're not using it. Acrylic likes to dry on stuff really fast. So this still feels damp, but I would consider that dry enough to move forward with your bottom part because it's not really bleeding anymore, so it's not going to get on. So we're going to give this a few minutes. We're going to come back to it. I'm going to clean up some of my mess while we're waiting. So we're still drying. I wouldn't wash my hands, so when I do this, I can see if it's peeling away some of the stain at all. There's like a faint little bit there, but it's close. But if you have like a fan or something like that in your house that you can put on this, it will help it dry faster. Or if you live somewhere warm, you could set it outside, and that will also help speed up the process there. But I have neither of those things today, so we're just gonna have to be patient. Okay, I think we're there. I really don't want to mess up my leather. We're gonna get some more paper towels. I did not think this through for this part. It's fine. We will do that. And then what I'm gonna do, at least for this first part, the best thing I had, people are gonna cringe, to cut this leather with today was my good sewing shears. Don't judge me. Cringe all you want at home, where I don't have to see it. I'm going to flip this over to get close to the size I need. I don't know if I can save some going this way. Let's test that theory real quick. So I'm just going to set this here. Yeah, actually, I can save a little bit. Sorry. Materials can get expensive, and anytime you can save some for another project, that's always good. So what I'm going to do is stand on the stool like it's not meant to be, and I'm going to cut there. So we have this chunk that we can use for another project some other time. Throw it over there. Try to mess up all my stuff. And I think take a little bit off this corner and that corner. Just so I don't have to work with it as much. So we're just going to do that. And the next thing I'm going to do to get the size I need and the right shape. I don't know if you guys can see down in here, but it's rounded on the corners, which is actually going to make it a little bit harder to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go face down with the leather that I have. Okay, so you can see I've kind of got that set down inside. And then what I'm gonna do is there are portions that actually have like these weird little tabs on them. So I'm gonna try to not have that be part of the bottom. I'm trying to press this down into the corners as much as I can. See, this is a nice test too because this piece of leather isn't perfectly square, so like I need to come over just a tad on the side to fully cover the bottom. Press into the corner there. If I had something like an X-Acto blade, this would be a good time to like push it down into the corners and then very carefully cut towards the corner to get the perfect shape of this thing. You want to be very careful that everything is flat too as you're pressing into the corners. And I'm assuming that everyone doesn't have like crazy sophisticated tools or anything like that. So to get the inner shape on this, what I'm just doing is I'm taking a Sharpie and I'm pressing it in towards the edges to get like a dotted line that goes all the way around so I can then cut it. It may not be perfect, but I'm sure your friends will be impressed nonetheless. Be very careful that you're getting all the way to the corner on that. It's very easy to mess up. I guess you can do a line too. Just gotta be careful you're not pulling the fabric when you do that. It's a pretty easy side there. Okay. So I have my basic outline from that. I will say this, even though you put that perfect line there, go ahead and cut just outside the line you made. You can always cut more away. It's hard to put it back once you've taken it away. So, okay. So we have the basic shape cut out. It's a little wonky in spots, but that's fine. So we're gonna do a test fit. You definitely need to cut a little bit more away in places, around the corners. This corner is a little bit wonky. So this side was a little bit weird too, because it's not straight. So I'm gonna come back and fix that. Okay, let's do another test fit. And you may have to do several test fits before you get it exactly the way you want it. That's fine. Just make sure it sits down in there nice and clean, as much as it can be. Still don't like that corner. Okay, let's try that. So I can already tell this isn't going to be perfect. There's going to be some gapping in a couple places, but that's fine. It's the way that I'm doing this. If I had used an X-Acto blade and I had had everything in there, that would have been cleaner. But it is what it is. It's fine. Handmade gifts have little quirks and things to them. So this corner needs a little bit more. Take your time as much as you can when you're doing these test fits and everything. This has just a little bit too much of a point on it, so we're gonna cut just a smidge off there. Getting close. Getting close. Okay. Again, I have a side that's not quite straight. It's hard to do with scissors, but lots of little scrappy pieces coming off. It's okay. Just fit right there. So everything looks pretty good except for this top. Looks like I need to take away just a tiny bit. See what that does. It's probably gonna be about perfect. Alright. Looks pretty good. Nice and shiny. I do really like the way that acrylic stained the wood. Yeah, it's still putting on my hands a little bit overall, but it's fine. So the next step is going to be to glue this into the bottom. Normally, I would recommend like a barge contact cement for wood to leather, or even like a spray adhesive. I don't have either of those things right now. I'm out of both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some super glue. The only thing that I don't recommend you use at all, you could probably get away with Elmer's or wood glue. Do not use a hot glue gun. And I say that because whenever you put the strings of glue down, it's going to create bumps in the bottom of your tray, and it's not going to roll smoothly. So go with a different kind of glue. Trust me, you will be much happier. So let's do this. This is my super glue. That's what I got, so we're going to run with it. The only thing I got to say about this is I'm going to have to go fast since I have super glue, and it's using a lot. Smooth it down really fast so you get nice, flat, even rolling surface on the bottom. And that is your homemade dice tray. So let's give you guys a closer look. So there's really nice grains on that. I'm super happy with it overall. And then a nice flat leather black rolling surface on the bottom. So there you have it. Last minute Christmas gift idea for that lovely D&D nerd in your life. If you guys like this dice tray, I am going to be giving it away down in the comments. All you have to do is throw a comment down below, and I will draw a winner on Christmas Day. So, until next time, you guys, keep it rolling, adventurers.